Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another act on this premium podcast with Ross Grant and me, Peter Dickson, Voiceover Man.
Welcome everybody to episode 52 of Watch Ross, the one where
I teach you how to get into voiceover.
Nice! Recognise that voice, do you? I bet you do. Well, after today's vlog, you're going to be able to put a face to it. Me and Petch are on our way down to London to record a podcast for actsonthis.tv with the most famous voiceover artist in the country, if not the world, bar me, Mr. Peter Dickson. You'll know him as the voice of the X Factor, Britain's Got Talent. He also works extensively throughout all other areas of the voiceover industry, and he also runs the largest online voiceover training company on the planet as well, Gravy for the Brain. Check out actsonthis.tv/gravy to find out how I'm going to be working with Peter and to bring you guys really like some awesome voiceover training over the next couple of months. Going to be talking about voiceover, how it's affected my life. It's impacted my life massively. Been in this industry 15 years, transformed my career really. It's obviously had a huge impact on Peter's life as well. So yeah, you're going to want to stick around. Really, we're going to be looking at how you guys can get yourselves a piece of this $4.4 billion industry. Before that, Petch, I definitely need a brew. Alright, Petch, how do you get down here? Mate, to the underground. And now, to the studio. Petch, look at all these, right? Look, we're in Hackenbacker Studios. Peter's like mate owns it, I think. He's well up. BAFTAs galore on here, and we're just waiting for him. He's in the studio doing something. Is he here? Peter, come out. I think he's here. Peter Dickson, welcome to the vlog. Here, we're just looking at all the BAFTAs.
Yes,
there's absolutely
of
shed
course,
loads.
This studio is Hackenbacker, which is where they make all these wonderful, film dubbing. They do the dubbing for the films and also for big TV productions as well, big dramas. And they've won all these awards. I mean, the guy that works in this studio we're going to is a guy called Nigel Heath, and he's...
Shout out Nigel.
Nigel is...
This is Petch, by the way. Petch is filming us today.
Hi, Petch.
All right, Petch.
Does he look like that all the time?
All the time. No one ever sees him. No, they do see him now and again on the vlog. Petch is here.
He's like a pet, isn't he? He's like a pet.
That's why we call him Petch. He's like a little pet. He's mad on Spider-Man, and he's really upset this week because he's seen Endgame, the final Marvel film.
Oh, yeah.
And that's game over for you, mate, isn't it?
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Biggest grossing film of all time.
Yeah, I know, I just heard that this morning.
Over a billion.
This is going to be the biggest grossing podcast of all time. And Peter, we're going to go in the studio, going to record a podcast on voiceover, obviously. Going to help the viewers, ultimately voiceover. I just said on the train, it's changed my life. It's obviously changed your life massively. Going to help these guys with some practical, actionable advice on what they can do to start, maybe exploring this as a viable option for a career. Excited about it?
I'm super excited. Can't wait to get started.
He can't wait. Petch, can you wait?
Can't wait.
Peter, you know what time it is.
It's time to start the podcast.
I'm going to test your sight reading now.
Oh god.
Because people are going to be going, his voice is familiar, but I'm going to give you this. Don't look it over too much. Don't overanalyze it. Read it straight off in voiceover man's voice. You'll definitely recognise this now.
We go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another act on this premium podcast with Ross Grant and me, Peter Dickson, Voiceover Man. Sit tight and keep listening, because this is going to be the best podcast I've ever recorded. Get in.
Boom. Look at that. There you go. The most... Well, let's say like the most recognisable voice in the country, bar mine. You'll know exactly who this guy is now. Obviously, voice of the X Factor, voice of Britain's Got Talent. But you know what, Peter? Like, I think a lot of people are going to be thinking that that's all you do. I know you do an absolute shed load more than that, both in the voiceover industry, on other projects, not just TV, but also, and we're going to talk about this a lot in today's podcast as well, you run the largest online voiceover training company on the planet, Gravy for the Brain.
That's right. Yeah, I do. Along with Hugh Edwards, my business partner, we do that. Yeah, and as you rightly say, I've been in the business 40 years. 43 years now. I started unbelievably when I was just 17 years old. You know, I was just barely out of short trousers, and the arrogance of youth. You know, I rang the BBC up one day because I'd always wanted to be a radio announcer. Bizarre for a young man, isn't it? I mean, it's a strange thing to want to do.
Yeah.
But you've probably met a few of them. But people that work in broadcasting are generally quite strange anyway. I think I belong in that camp very firmly. I had this desire as a young child to record my voice, to speak on the radio. I don't know where that came from. Maybe it was because I'd heard some voices that coming out of my father's radio set when I was maybe 5 or 6, and I remember hearing these wonderful, fruity voices from the BBC emanating from this radio set, and I just thought I want to do that. And so when I got to the age of 17, I just left school. I was just about to leave school, actually. I rang the BBC up and I said, have you got any jobs going?
Nice.
And they invited me down. I was horrified and at the same time excited. But I went down to the BBC and met this man who was the head of the presentation department. He said, can you just read this? Rather like you just did with me. I had no pre-warning. He said, read that. And it was a news bulletin or a few stories from a BBC news bulletin. I read it on mic, and he recorded it and said, thank you very much. We'll be in touch. And literally 3 days later, my mother took a call at our house saying, can I start on the Monday?
Wow.
And this was just as I was about to go to university. So while I did my 4-year degree, I was going back and forth to the BBC, doing shifts, you know, mainly in the evening, some day shifts, where I was, you know, reading news and doing little programs and things. So that was my really early introduction into radio and into working on mic.
So I've been working in voiceover like 15 years. It completely changed my life. Probably not to the extent it's changed your life. I'm definitely not as recognisable as you, but it's definitely had a huge impact financially. It enabled me to give up my day job. It enabled me to have more time to audition as an actor. Massive impact. The industry is estimated to be worth $4.4 billion a year. Incredible amount of money. I want to help the people listening to this get a little, get excited about getting a piece of that action, and we'll give them some practical, actionable steps, that they can use and take from this podcast.
Yeah.
Over the last decade, I've seen the internet revolutionise the way the voiceover industry operates, and as technology's improved and gotten cheaper, the industry's become kind of more accessible for everybody in a way. And to be honest, if you've got a MacBook and a decent microphone and the talent, right, that's definitely necessary.
Yes.
You have got everything you kind of need to succeed in this industry. The one ingredient you can't pick up on the shelf at an Apple store, though, is that talent, right? So we want to chat about that to begin with. What, in your opinion, makes a good voiceover artist, and what skills would you suggest the actors listening to this, look at developing? And I'm talking like way before they even think of trying, to produce like, a demo or look for paid work. There's got to be a lot of groundwork, I think.
Oh, the demo and the paid work come very much further down the line. But the good news is for those who are listening to this, who are actors, who have undertaken acting training perhaps, or they've had experience of acting in repertory theatre or in wherever, most of our listeners now will have had that experience. The good news is that's literally 3/5 of you've got most of what you need already.
Yeah.
You've got the ability to adapt and to change your voice, to do different characters, to make your performance real. So you know all about that stuff. We don't have to teach you that. So what we need to teach you, or what you need to learn, is the etiquette of how the voiceover industry works, how to perform on mic, how to technically record yourself, how to get the work in the first place, how to approach an agent, perhaps how to get an audition reel done or reels done, working out what areas of voiceover you're particularly interested in, because there are many genres.
Loads.
From explainer videos to ADR to animation, commercials, you name it. There are literally as many
genres in voiceovers there are months in the year, so you can be very specific if you want to, or you can be very general. I took the decision many years ago to be quite a generalist. I'm probably a jack of all trades a little bit, but I'm very glad I did take that decision, because what you find is in this industry is that you can be the top of the staircase 1 minute in, say, promo or advertising commercials.
It's fickle,
and then the next year, your takings, your income from that particular genre or that area has literally dived below the surface, never to be seen again.
So, what do you think of the core competencies that these people should be looking at developing then, in terms of, I don't know, sight reading, diction, understanding the audience they're reading the script to, and that kind of stuff?
Well, all good communication, and I'm talking about everything to do with voiceover now, that's from corporate to commercial to audiobooks. All good communication relies on connecting with another person at an emotional level.
I'll often get a script literally on arrival. I very, very rarely get a script, in advance.
You never get to see it. That's the other thing that most actors find difficult about voiceover, is because, when you go for a part, you've got the text to work with for maybe weeks or months beforehand. You can do all your character investigation and practice on mic if you want to, or in front of a mirror. But here, as you say, you very often either, if you're working at home, they'll email you the script and expect it back like that, or you'll get an audition, you have to do it right away. Or if you're coming into a big city market like London and you're going to a studio like this one we're in now, they'll just say, okay, there's the script, you go into the booth and read it.
Off you go.
And and even, that's for commercials and particularly for maybe gaming. I mean, I do a lot of gaming work, and you'll go in on a Monday morning at 10 a.m. and the director will say, well, there's the script, and it's literally a sheaf of papers that thick, which is literally just pages and pages of Excel spreadsheets with each cell filled with maybe 1, 2, 3 or 12 lines. And you're just reading these lines completely out of context. It's very, very important to focus and be to concentrate and to have that sight reading ability in order to do that. You've got to literally switch into the character and know exactly your purpose, as we spoke about earlier, why you're there, what's happened beforehand in the scene, what's going to happen next, what your emotional state is. You've got to ask all those questions. And these are all the little tips and tricks and techniques we teach at Gravy for the Brain, because nobody teaches this at acting school.
No, I went to one of the best drama schools in the country. Apparently, didn't do any of this. We didn't do even any TV training. We just took to theatre for 3 years, threw you out into the world, and went, go on, go make a living for yourself. And I was like, well, you've actually you've taught me nothing about how I'm going to make money with these skills.
Gravy for the Brain. Our very first course was actually the gaming course, which is still one of our most popular ones.
Right, okay.
Online. We actually teach it. We haven't done one for a while, but we should probably do another one right in this studio right here. And we teach. Hugh came up with the idea because, as a gaming director, he found himself having to train actors in front of clients.
Yeah,
and that's not ideal because it looks bad. So he thought, well, I'm using all the same small pool of people all the time because they know how to do it, but I want to use so many more actors.
People, yeah, of course.
So we trained, but I think we've trained about 2,000 actors now in gaming, and about 42,000 actors around the world in all the other aspects of voiceover. So it's obviously there's a great need for it.
Yeah, I'm coming on one of those. I've not done enough computer games. You did Harry Potter, didn't you?
Yes,
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
The Harry Potter. That was quite a while ago on PlayStation. That though, there was a game called Buzz on PlayStation. It was a quiz game. Jason Donovan was the quiz host, and I would answer the questions. I would ask the questions. That was crazy. But yeah, gaming
massive now. I mean,
huge,
and the budgets are huge too. Not necessarily for the actors because they tend to want to do buyouts on those games. But if you've got a good part with a lot of lines, and you're in the studio for quite a few hours, you can make a tidy sum of money doing gaming.
I've taken a lot of actors, and I mean some seriously household names, into the studio, and they've been rubbish at voiceover. I think there's a thing where actors think just because they can act, voiceover is almost not as hard as walking and talking, acting. Oh, well, that can't be as hard as sitting in a studio and just talking. You do, I think, I agree with you what you said before. They have the skills, or they have at least a basis of the skills required. But what's your experience been of that? Have you taken people in who are overconfident, and then you put them in front of the mic and they go, oh, actually, this is a lot harder than I thought? Because even breathing,
see
in the
all
right
the time.
places.
Yeah, see it all the time. We teach a technique called inhale, pause, frame, deliver. And what that basically means is, you can imagine a recording engineer recording your voiceover, and what people tend to do is when they take a script, they'll go like this. Welcome to another... Do you see what I did there? Now that noise has to be edited off, and sometimes you can't edit it off, and it drives engineers and producers mad. So it's something that you wouldn't necessarily know about as an actor, unless you knew that we teach you to inhale, pause, frame, deliver. Inhale, obviously filling the tank.
Yep.
You pause to give that little bit of dead air, and you frame your mouth into the shape of the first syllable that you're going to say. In the case of this script, it was welcome, so I'd be I'd have that shape ready, and then I deliver. So it's inhale, pause, frame, deliver. Now these are little techniques, and there are thousands of these techniques we teach all the time to people, and they think, "Oh yeah, I never thought of that. I never knew that I needed to do that."
The amount of people breathing in words, they'll take a breath within a word. I'm like, I can't cut that out. And they just can't do it. Where did that announcer voice kind of come from, and how did Simon Cowell and the people at Ace Factor even discover it?
Well, I was working on Steve Wright's show on Radio 1 for a number of years, and I worked as one of his posse. We used to create voice characters, telephone characters,
right?
And I remember one of the characters that we came up with for that show was when he was on The Breakfast Show, was a character called Voiceover Man. Because I was kind of doing voiceovers at that time anyway, and I thought it'd be quite fun to have a voiceover man character who spoke like a voiceover man all the time.
All the time. Brilliant.
That's right.
Yeah, love it.
And there's a bouncy castle for the kids, right off the ring road. That sort of voice.
Yeah.
Which at the time was, and still is sadly, still requested by commercial voiceover producers in radio, but more so these days as a kind of a pastiche rather than as any genuine sort of desire to sound like that. Anyway, so that's where Voiceover Man came from, and then when the X Factor came along, I auditioned for it along with a load of other people, and I remember thinking that, having seen the pilot show, that this show really demanded a big kind of voice, much bigger, in fact, than the Voiceover Man character I'd done on Radio 1. So I just took that the basis, the tonality of that character, and then just multiplied it by 100.
Right.
And then gave it more bass, and came up with this ridiculous stentorian kind of pompous, rather over-the-top style. And every year, Simon Cowell used to say, well, we want to see it bigger and bigger. And I always say to people, by season 10, I was bleeding like a Bond villain from my eyeballs.
I made mistakes starting out. I'm sure you did. What do you think? Let's give them 3 things to go, right, do this, this, and this. And then a 4th one is definitely sign up for Gravy for the Brain and get some real training.
What's the first thing? Is get some training.
Yeah, it's the first one, actually.
Get some, seriously, no, really, if you join Gravy for the Brain, I think you've got a promo code or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll give some decent discount to your listeners, of course, and we'll give them lots of love. You can join for a month and then turn it off and go away and come back 6 months later. You still get the same deal. So it's not like you're tied in for a year.
Yep.
There's no penalty
exactly
to leave.
Exactly the same as that's on this.
I think when Hugh and I sat down and created Gravy for the Brain, we said we're going to make an extremely ethical company. We're not going to rip people off. We're going to give them fantastic value for money. When you go in there, you'll see what's in there. You won't believe it. It's amazing.
The library is incredible. I was scrolling through it yesterday, and I couldn't get through it, to be honest, because there were just pages and pages and
pages
amazing. Of webinars and
it's
podcasts.
all indexable and searchable. So if you want to find out about voice booths, you just type in voice booths. It'll show you every single element on our platform that deals with how to create your own home studio, say, and you can find out how to do that. It's very easy to do, but there's literally I hate to sort of we're not a very selly business. We don't have to sell it, because when you see what we've got, people just say, yeah, I get it. That's great, I'm in.
Yeah.
So we don't do any hard sell, and there's no upselling either inside. So once you pay your monthly subscription, it's a bit like Netflix. You pay your monthly subscription, you get everything, absolutely everything we do forever.
provided you remember.
Exactly the same model that I run. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I took, just to check out Gravy for the Brain before I met you and Hugh, you just did a voiceover for beginners course.
Yeah.
And that in itself, was so in depth, and the little quizzes you could do in there. And I actually, I've been doing this at that point probably 12 years. I took away stuff from that. One thing I took away? Posture, and I'm not doing it now. I should be, but in terms of sitting, you and Hugh go through sitting on the edge of the chair, one knee kind of out, and you can look at all this on the site, guys. I know this is audio; you're not going to be able to see me right now. But I was like,
you know why the posture is important?
Well, it's like the diaphragm.
Yeah, because if you're sitting the way we are now, we're on a casual conversation basis. I'm not performing, and that's fine. But if I was going to be doing this as a performance as a voiceover, I'd sit like that.
Yeah.
So my back's nice and straight. So that replicates the same shape in my torso as when I'm standing.
Yeah.
And so I can give my diaphragm the chance to move and to give my breath the ability to work as well as it can and give you that control.
Webinars, right? We're going to be hosting, for those listening, we're going to be hosting some exclusive webinars for Acts on This and in conjunction with Gravy for the Brain over the next couple of months. Now, I don't know when you're going to listen to this podcast. This might be way down the line. Don't worry, you're still going to get access to the replays of those. We're actually going to be hosting a webinar, Peter, called Actors. I mean, this is a bloody great title. Actors, this is how you get voiceover work. I mean...
well, it's just what it says on the tin.
Exactly.
That's it.
If you get yourself over to actonthis.tv/gravy for details of those, or you can watch the replays, like I say, if you've missed them. We're also going to be giving that discount away. The discount code for those listening is... So there you go. You just saw a few clips of the podcast me and Peter have just done. Peter, it was just an awesome chat. You enjoy that, what?
I did. I was great. I loved it.
He just gets paid to talk for a living, so do I, so we can probably just talk and talk and talk. But I hope it's inspired people to look at this industry, and really, just stop. Actors who want to get into voiceover, just stop procrastinating. There are so many things. Hopefully, you've taken from that podcast that you can start acting upon. So this is called Acts on This, the whole website that I run. There was two things that came up for me in that I want to just expand on for 5 minutes. First thing, Peter, was again, it goes back to what I've just said. How much control I think actors have over their careers if they just realise it. They're not at the mercy of casting directors all the time. There is things that they can do themselves. You told a great story about 15 years ago, you made a phone call to a company going, listen, you probably need voiceover. Yeah. I'm a voiceover artist. Anything that you need me to do? And they gave you a contract for Cineworld, a massive cinema chain, for 15 years. Just like, what have you got to say in terms of just taking action? And you said about being a self-starter.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to reprise it all, but, it's very, very simple. You don't sit at home and wait for the phone to ring, because it won't ring. You've got to actually get out there and do stuff. And as Nicholas Tellim said, go out and go to more parties, meet more people, make those connections with other voice artists and with producers and directors, meet them socially. This is a people business. It's all about trust. And so I always say to people, put yourself in the shoes of the people who are employing you, and then that way you will understand what you have to do. So in other words, if you are a producer and director and you've written this great commercial and you're at the point where you're about to do the voiceover, there's been maybe months of work has gone into getting to that point. There's been the client lunches, there's wooing the client, there's agreeing the fees, there's shooting the commercial. They probably had a crew go to South Africa to film. They film a lot out there, or the Caribbean, or wherever they've gone. But there's been huge expense to get to that one singular point in the day where it's down to you to put the polishing touch onto it. And, they're not going to employ you unless they actually trust you. And as soon as I walk into that room, I want to see them all go, he's here. We don't have to worry about it now. And that's the point you need to get to. And to get to that point, you have to get to know people. They have to trust you. You have to build your reputation. Yeah. That's the very important thing. So when somebody entrusts their project to you, whether it's a small commercial, a big commercial, an audiobook, an animation, whatever it is, that when you walk into the room, they should go, thank God he's here, and that's really where you want to be. So trust is important, and trust is gained through practice and by turning up and just showing up at the right time and not farting in the studio.
Yeah. Don't any of that. Definitely. That's the last thing we want. It's very cold in this studio. Maybe it'd warm us up if someone did do that. The other thing I want to talk about, you said at the end of that podcast, and I don't know if I'm going to put a clip of that in or whether I'm going to make people go and actually listen to the full podcast on actsonthis.tv. So I don't know if you will have seen this, viewers, or not. Not edited this obviously yet, but you were talking about you wish you could have given the advice to yourself earlier on, like to be yourself a little bit more, as opposed to, and especially this is something that's massive for younger actors as well. They feel they've got to kind of, prescribe to a certain model, or, they will try and be like other people they see on the TV. For instance, right, how many people, want to pass you off and go, right, oh yeah, I can do voiceover, what did I say before? What's her name? What's that bird's name? Rachel. I'll try and do it. Rachel Adedeji. I mean, it's free. Sorry, very northern. Sorry,
what's that bird?
Sorry, Rachel. Very, very talented lady. But yeah, Rachel Adedeji. I mean, I can't do it. How many people kind of want to try and be you? And they shouldn't be that. They need to be themselves in the voiceover industry.
Well, of course, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, don't we? We have to start somewhere, and our voices are after. Everybody's voice is, after all, a product of what they hear and see around them. And so your voice is unique to you, my voice is unique to me, but it's based on the sounds that I've heard, and in the time of our living, popular culture will inform how we sound as well. If you listen back to how you sounded, if you have an old recording of yourself,
I have, yeah.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
And I've heard stuff I've done 20, 30 years ago. It's embarrassingly bad. But then it was probably okay because my voice sounded in tune with the time. And nowadays my voice is very different to what it was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, which is why, incidentally, you should always revisit your demos regularly to make sure they're in tune with popular culture and what people are expecting to hear. And those who don't change their demos or change their voices to reflect the way popular culture is, they inevitably fall by the wayside. So, yeah, I think it's important to pay attention to what's going on and listen to what's going on around you.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with that. And I also think if you don't listen back to stuff you did 10, 20 years ago and cringe, you probably waited too long, right? You should look back and be embarrassed. If I look back to episodes, I think this vlog has maybe been good quality, Petch, because Petch has been shooting it since day one. But I could have easily waited, Peter, months and months and months longer than I did to start a vlog, to start podcasting, to go, I'm only going to do it when everything's right. If you don't, look back on your work and I think are a little bit embarrassed about how bad it is compared to how good you are now, one, you've not improved, and two, you probably just waited too long. So get out there, make stuff happen. Get over to actsonthis.tv, get your membership, go to actsonthis.tv/gravy to find out what me and Peter and Hugh, Peter's business partner, are doing with voiceover training. We're going to be pushing a lot of Gravy for the Brain stuff over the next few months. Going to be doing some exclusive webinars, and we've also got a discount code that you'll find on that page as well to get Gravy for the Brain cheaper than you would normally be able to get it. Do I give them the discount code now, or do I make them go over and get involved with the webinar? What do you reckon?
Get involved in the webinar. Yeah, it's all on there.
Get involved in the webinar, actsonthis.tv/gravy. We're going to be doing these webinars towards the end of May. We'll probably just do them like bloody continuously now. Going to push these guys. They're just decent people selling a quality product like Acts on This. And obviously you can push all of your guys to Acts on This. Job done. Peter, right, I've never done this. I'm going to give you... there's a catchphrase at the end of the vlog that I'm giving it you. It's my catchphrase, right? It's not even a catchphrase. It's ridiculous, but I'm gonna let you say it because you're gonna just say it really, really great. So, before I hand over to Peter, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, I hope you found this useful. We're gonna be back with some more great guests very, very soon on the vlog. Do subscribe, share this with your friends, reach out to Peter. Social media's up on the screen right now. Let him know that you've seen this, you listened to the podcast, and also obviously reach out if we can help you anymore. I'd normally do a countdown in 3, 2, 1. Peter, are you ready? In 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been great being with you. But for now, it's BFN. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. It really would mean the world to me if you would leave a comment telling me what you enjoyed and what you would like to see more of next time. If you want to catch more episodes, head over to facebook.com/watchross or youtube.com
youtube.com/watch Ross. Make sure you subscribe and turn your notifications on. I'll be back real soon. Bye for now.
Richard Branson, need to sort it out, right? The woman said the coffee machine needed to be cleaned 3 times before it would dispense coffee. It keeps asking to be cleaned. I've had to have a tea. It's the first time I've ever had a tea. Don't really know what to think about it. Oh, I've got soya milk though. Didn't know I'd pick that up.
Join Petch.
I don't really want to join Petch. Here, see what it's like. It's just not the same.